Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Your turn. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bolo. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Oh Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Oh Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Everyone. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Hare, your turn. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura, Hari Bol, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Nitai Gaura Premanandi.
Does everybody know everybody? Almost. Almost? Kind of. Does your host know everybody? Not really. You know everybody.
That's everything.
You know everybody. And my understanding is there are some people here who have been practicing Krishna consciousness for quite some time. Some are quite new and some are somewhere in the middle. Yeah. But the topic for this evening, somebody yesterday, I was in Houston, and there was a similar mix of people present. And just looking around, I decided to speak something from Canto 1, Chapter 2. We just started. Canto 1, Chapter 2, Srimad Bhagavatam. How many persons here have in their home Canto 1, Chapter 2, that's towards the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam, is the first set of the answers. Okay, here comes another ritual. Krishna Krishna. Thank you very much. Haribol. Srimad Bhagavatam, we say, rightly so, Srimad Bhagavatam was spoken by whom, to whom? Do you know? Who spoke Srimad Bhagavatam? In the pink dress here. Who spoke Srimad Bhagavatam? The speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam was, starts with an S. The speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam was, does the name Sukadev sound familiar? You're looking at your father to see if she remembers Sukadev. It's okay. The speaker was Sukadev. Don't, I'm embarrassing you, so I'll stop. See if on the boys' side. Who was Shukadev Goswami speaking to? Who was the listener of Srimad Bhagavatam? Either of you boys know? Okay. He was a king. Starts with a P. Parikshit. Parikshit means, those of you that have been, allow me to keep the children engaged, at least to the beginning, so it'll help them stay attentive through at least the first half of what we're doing. Maharaj Parikshit was given the name Parikshit because the name means examiner. Why was he called the examiner? He was called the examiner because he was saved by Krishna. His life was saved while he was still within the womb of his mother, because a really bad person named Ashvatthama tried to kill him while he was still in the womb. Ashvatthama was the son of a Brahmana. Ashvatthama's father was a very learned Brahmana and a great personality. Dronacharya, Brahmana, Acharya. So Ashvatthama wanted to kill all the descendants of the Kuru dynasty. He was a Brahmana. So he knew how to release a Brahmastra weapon. Astra means weapon, and Brahmastra means it's like an invincible weapon. He released that Brahmastra. It's done by mantra. Today it's done by other methods, not by subtle methods. So subtle mantra released this Brahmastra, and it goes right to the target and destroys the target. And the target, in this case, was Parikshit. He was within the womb of his mother, and he wanted to kill. He was not just an abortion, he wanted to kill him. So the mother, her name was Uttara. Uttara called out to Krishna, 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 please protect the child within my womb. She wasn't asking for her life. She was asking for protection from the child within her womb. So what did Krishna do? He came. And he counteracted the Brahmastra. It was really hot. It was like an atomic bomb. Prabhupada says it's like a nuclear bomb, not atomic. Nuclear bomb. Heat weapon. Krishna repelled the heat weapon. Maharaj Parikshit saw, while still within the womb, he saw the form of Krishna. The weapon was stopped, Krishna disappeared. Maharaj Parikshit had the impression in his mind of Krishna. So for his whole life, he was looking, where is that Krishna? Is Krishna over here? Is Krishna over there? He was searching for Krishna. And therefore he was given the name at his birth, Parikshit, because he was always searching, examining, where is Krishna? Where is Krishna? Parikshit. He was the one who received the Srimad Bhagavatam. So what is Srimad Bhagavatam anyways? We'll just back up a little bit. You ready for getting some quiz questions? Yeah, you. Picking on little kids. You're next too, by the way. You're not as little, but it's fun. What is Srimad Bhagavatam? Can you say what it is? Like, short little summary of what is Srimad Bhagavatam? It's about Krishna. Okay. Scripture about Krishna. Let's expand it a little bit. When the father of Shukadeva Goswami was very good, Vyasadeva. Pay attention over here. Shukadeva Goswami, the speaker of the Bhagavatam, had a father. His father was, she just said, his father was Vyasadeva. 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 Vyasadeva is a empowered literary incarnation. He's a Shakti Avesh avatar. Shakti Avesh means he's carrying the Shakti of Krishna, specific for writing the message of the Vedas, because prior to Vyas, there was nothing in writing, because everyone could understand and remember everything just by hearing it once. Wouldn't you like that ability? Go to school, anything that you hear, you'd understand it completely, and you can say it back again completely. Wow. So people prior to this age had that ability. Shh. Shh. Something needs to help. Help this little boy find a place where he can be happy. So Vyas, one of the features, because you knew about Vyas, one of the features of Vyasadeva is he could see past, present, and future perfectly. We can't even see present perfectly. He could see present perfectly, and past perfectly, and future perfectly. Didn't have a crystal ball, he could just see it. He looked into the future. And what he saw was, yikes, Kali Yuga's coming. Because around that time, Krishna was soon to depart. And he knew what that meant, the change of yugas, the dark age of Kali. And he described the symptoms of the age of Kali before it happened, because the ages of mankind are cyclical, and the dark age is it's Kali Yuga. So he wanted to do something. So being a literary person, what he decided to do was take all of that Vedas that was in sound and put it in writing, because he knew one of the difficulties for people of this age is they can't remember. Like the previous age, they could perfectly remember. In this age, they can't remember so well. Prabhupada taught us, if you want to remember something, write it down. It's a good adage. You want to remember something? Write it down. Doesn't guarantee you're going to remember it, but if you write it down, it's more likely you remember it if you don't. Write it down. So he wrote down the Vedas. Not only he wrote the Vedas, but he divided the one Veda into 4 divisions. And it's interesting. When he divided the Vedas into 4, there were some remaining verses. Just like if you divide 4 into 30, how many times does 4 go into 30? 4 into 30? 7. And there's a remainder, right? Plus 2. So there, when he divided the Vedas into 4, there was some remainder. And what did he do with the remainder? He took the remainder and converted the Sanskrit into a more convenient type of Sanskrit for the people of this age called Laukika. Laukika means worldly. There's Alaukika, that's what the 4 Vedas are written in, or composed in. And so he took those remaining verses from the one Veda, this is described within the Vedas themselves, and he wrote the histories that would illuminate or illustrate the teachings of the 4 Vedas. And they're called Smritis. The Shrutis are the 4, and the Smritis explain the 4. Smriti. Shruti is a common girl's name. Smriti is not so common. Smritis. And so amongst the Smritis, there are 2 categories. There's Puranas and Itihasas. Puranas are histories. It's in the course of narrating history, the teachings of the 4 Vedas are illumined or brought out, or it looks like this, and that one looks like that, and it explains the Vedas through history, the actual history. And then the Itihasas, they're also history. Mahabharata. You know what is Mahabharata, right? Yeah. So Mahabharata is in the category of Itihasa. And then there's principal Puranas, 18 principal Puranas. What's 18 divided by 3? 6. So there's 6 and 6 and 6 makes 18. 6 that are in the mode of goodness, 6 written for people in the mode of passion, 6 written for people in the mode of ignorance. They all have the same purpose, elevation to higher consciousness, transcendental consciousness. And of those 6 in the mode of goodness, that's Srimad Bhagavatam. It's free from the modes because some of you, many of you, I'm sure, like reading Bhagavad Gita. And in Bhagavad Gita, there's 3 modes of nature. The 3 modes of nature are goodness, passion, ignorance, right? According to Bhagavad Gita, whatever mode is prevalent, there's a mixture of the other 2 modes mixed in. So let's say there's a mode of goodness, but there's a mixture. It's not pure goodness, it's goodness plus some mix of passion, some mix of ignorance. So let's say a mode of goodness person. They're good people. However, sometimes they may become angry. Anger is a sign of ignorance. So there may be a spike in ignorance, and then it'll subside again and become goodness again. Or maybe passion. Maybe they become lusty or greedy. So that may spike, and then that will subside again and becomes goodness. So like that, the Puranas, the other 5 of the 6 Puranas in the mode of goodness, there's some taint of other modes, but Srimad Bhagavatam, because I'm doing all this because I asked the question, what can you say what Srimad Bhagavatam is? So it's one of the Puranas, it's a history that's giving teachings about Krishna, but the other Puranas, they also give teachings about Krishna, but it's not just focused on Krishna, and there's a mix of the other modes, so there's some encouragement for this, some encouragement for that, etc. Srimad Bhagavatam from beginning to end, it's pure goodness. Amala Purana, spotless Purana. Mala means contamination, and Amala means no contamination, no taint, no tinge of the other modes of nature. Shuddha sattva, not just sattva, Shuddha. So the person speaking Srimad Bhagavatam, we say, is Shukadeva Goswami. He learned it from his father. Remember who his father is? Vyasadeva, very good. You have a good memory. Vyasadeva. However, when Srimad Bhagavatam begins, Canto 1, Chapter 1, Shukadeva Goswami hasn't even appeared on the scene yet. The first canto, in fact, that's the first canto. It's not a skinny book. It's spoken by somebody other than Shukadeva. It's spoken by Sutta. Okay, spoken by Sutta. And the persons who are the audience, it's not Maharaj Parikshit and Shukadeva Goswami. The audience is sages. Sages who have gathered knowing, they also knew. Vyasadeva knew Kali Yuga is coming. By the time the sages gathered, Kali Yuga had already started. It was a little bit later. Kali Yuga had started. Krishna had left. Kali Yuga has begun. They saw symptoms. Age of Kali. Bad. We want to do something to neutralize the bad effects of the age of Kali. That's compassion. Natural. So they did what they knew how to do. They knew how to perform yagyas. So their plan was they went to the holy place of Naimisharanya. Anyone here been to Naimisharanya? Okay. Someday, some of you will go to Naimisharanya and you'll see it's a holy place. It looks like, like a nice forest. Like any other scene, but you feel something. I certainly felt something. And it's a very wonderful place. So it's a holy place. And the sages had assembled at Naimisharanya because it's a holy place. And their plan was to perform a yajna for 1,000 years, which means as soon as one yajna is over, the next one is starting. As soon as that one's over, the next one's starting. Continuous yajnas for 1,000 years. Why? To neutralize or minimize the bad effects of the age of Kali. That's what they were going to do. That they're brahmanas that knew how to do yajnas. They knew it's a bad age. They wanted to do something. So they did what they had faith and capacity to do. And they noticed as they were starting their yajnas, there was a person in their assembly who was Sutta. And they knew that Sutta was in the audience hearing for the very first time the recitation of Srimad Bhagavatam from beginning to end. Because we're going to go back to you. The little girl in the pink dress, pay attention.
I'm doing this to help younger people stay focused. So if I call on you a few times, I'm not picking on you, it's just like keeping your attention, okay? It's all right? I'm not making you uncomfortable, I hope. So, the speaker of the Bhagavatam was Shukadeva Goswami. The person who heard it was Maharaj Parikshit. And in the audience was Sutta. And Sutta was in the audience of this Naimisharanya forest, where they were doing yagyas. And so the sages said, oh, look, here's Sutta. He knows the whole Srimad Bhagavatam. He only heard it once, but he had a good memory, so he could say it back. So they wanted to have him speak Srimad Bhagavatam. But they didn't just like wind him up and say, can you recite Srimad Bhagavatam for us, please? What they did was, they asked questions. The format, generally speaking, the format of the Puranas is someone, the student or listener, is hearing and they're asking questions of a speaker, and it's back and forth. Questions, answers. Questions, answers. Just like we'll do at the end, we'll have some questions, answers time. And so they asked 6 questions. That's in Canto 1, Chapter 1. And there's 6 answers. That's in Canto 1, Chapters 2 and 3. So if you read the first 3 chapters, when you read, because so many of you have Bhagavatam in your home, when you read the first 3 chapters of Srimad Bhagavatam, you'll have understood the essence, or at least received the essence of the whole Srimad Bhagavatam. Isn't that nice? Now there's more. Those essences are then expanded by further questions. You said this, could you explain this? You said that, can you explain that? And so forth. So it gets expanded, and then it gets summarized at the end. The last chapter of Canto 12. So yesterday evening, all this is a little background. Yesterday evening, I spoke on one of those verses that was towards the very beginning of Canto 1, Chapter 2, the answers to the first set of questions. You know, the essence of, what's the essence of this Srimad Bhagavatam? So I'm going to recite the verse, and those of you that like reciting verses, it's really easy to remember. You can say after, I'll say, you say, we'll do it 3 times. It's, those that like to use your handheld device of some kind, you can look it up. It's 1.2.6. And it starts Vasudeva Bhagavati. And then we're going to go to Canto 3. Jumping way ahead. Oops. .2.7. For those of you who don't know, there's an online digital version of all the Prabhupada's books. It's called Vedabase. And if as long as you have some internet connection or your telephone connection, you can look up anything wherever you are. So 1.2.7. Here's the verse. I'll say, and I'll say it slowly 3 times, and you repeat. Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojataha Jandayati Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Cha Yadahaitukam. You're a good group. I'm impressed. Let's hear from the ladies' side, because the men's voice is real strong. Let's hear from the ladies' side. No competition or anything. Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojataha Janayati ashu vairagyam jnanam cha yadahaitukam. Okay, I think you got it. Maybe I'll just, if you can respond from your memory, let's see if we can do it that way without looking. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojataha Janayati Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Cha Yad Ahaitukam. So, hetu means cause, and hetu means with no cause, or causelessly. Causelessly, knowledge and detachment arise. Jnanam, cha, knowledge, vairagyam and jnanam arise naturally, spontaneously, or as a byproduct of devotional service. Bhakti yoga unto whom? Unto Vasudeva. Who's Vasudeva? Krishna. Right? The Bhagavatam is a book about Krishna. So Vasudeva. And the way to understand Vasudeva, according to Bhagavad Gita, the way to understand Vasudeva is devotional service. In fact, Krishna says there in Bhagavad Gita, he says there isn't another way. Now, here's another way that some people try. They try by cultivation of knowledge, jnanam. Question: if one becomes a very accomplished scholar, can he know Krishna? Scholarship doesn't give access into transcendence. Scholarship, at best, when scholarship is really, that's like 4 reallys, elevated, then there can be detachment. Detachment from what? Detachment from asat. What's asat? That which is not sat, that which is temporary. Or affinity for the enjoyment of matter. There was a very nice, I've said this many times, some years ago at a Rath Yatra, somebody introduced me to a Chinese lady. They were enthusiastic because they know that I was visiting China. I'm still, as soon as they allowed visitors, I'll visit again. But so, visiting China, then here's a Chinese lady, and they wanted to introduce me to her. And she said, I just have one question. Why creation? Why creation? Nice question. So my answer was, I'm sharing this with you because it's related to vairagya. 2. 1, we wanted it. And so it's created because we wanted it. What does it, we want it mean? We want it means we have an eternal relationship with the Supreme Person. We're part and parcel of the Supreme Person. However, by misuse of free will, we wanted separate enjoyment. Problem, there's no such thing. When you want something that doesn't exist, but just, sometimes children will be a little adamant they want. And mother or father say no. And when you say no to some children, that means they say yes, stronger and louder, and they insist, I want it. All right. So sometimes, a clever parent, they'll show a mirror. And in the mirror, there's a reflection of the thing they want. But there's no substance there. You follow? So there's no substance of enjoyment here. There's no such thing as separate enjoyment. Real enjoyment is being in connection with the absolute supreme enjoyable personality in a loving exchange. That's what happiness is. But when we want separate enjoyment, it doesn't exist. So then the world is created for people who want separate enjoyment, although it doesn't exist. It's called Maya. You heard the word Maya before? You know the meaning? Illusion. Good. Ma means not, and ya means this. Or it's not this, but it looks like this. So here's an apple, and here's a mirror, and in the mirror there's a reflection of the apple. There's no substance in that apple reflection, and you turn the mirror a little bit, and the reflection's gone. And then you make a mirror that's not made properly, and it looks a little distorted. So that's what this world is. It's distorted, the appearance of something that's real, but it's not real. There's no not real in the sense that there's no substance. So why creation? We wanted it. We wanted enjoyment separate from the position of real enjoyment, being in a loving relationship. So that's one of the reasons. Then another reason is to rectify that mistake. Just like a prison. A prison is a house of detention. It's also a house of correction. Maybe it doesn't happen, but that's what it's supposed to be. They call it a correctional facility sometimes. It's to keep bad people from hurting other good people. But, and then maybe they'll learn their lesson. So when they're let out, they don't hurt good people, they stop. And sometimes they keep doing it again. They have to go back to prison. So that the material world is like that. A house of correction, a house of detention. The correction is the opportunity to restore what real happiness is instead of happiness that doesn't exist. But the difficulty is we're attached to the idea of being separate enjoyers. It's like deeply ingrained. Ooh. Even when you're trying to be a pious person, the intention to be the enjoyer of even good things is it's about me, not about Krishna. So, Bhagavad Gita teaches us the way to know Krishna through devotional service. And here it's saying through the medium of devotional service, you can get this knowledge and detachment because by that process, you get connection with Krishna. Bhakti Yoga, Vasudeve Bhagavati, Bhakti Yoga, Prayojataha. When Bhakti Yoga is restored, revived, reestablished, then you don't need one does not require a separate effort to cultivate knowledge. When we're reading Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, we're not gathering knowledge. We're nourishing the spirit of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam is to nourish bhakti. And when bhakti is nourished, knowledge and detachment come. Ahaituki, causelessly. So this I spoke about yesterday evening in Katy. It wasn't even Houston, it was a suburb. This is a suburb too, right? Is this Austin or is it a suburb? Suburb. Okay. Pretty packed up place for a suburb. You got a lot of friends, huh? Or host and hostess. So this very almost identical verse appears in Canto 3 of Srimad Bhagavatam. So some of you know, raise your hand if you know. There's one verse in Bhagavad Gita that's repeated twice. Anybody know what that verse is? Just don't say it. Just raise your hand if you know what that verse is. You know the verse? Well, I see one hand. I see two hands. I see 5 hands. Huh? You know about it. Okay. Well, the fact that it comes twice, and it's the only verse that comes twice, says it must be an important verse. That's it. So let's say the verse together. Manmana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuro may So that the last part is modified slightly, but the first part is the same. Manmana, there's 4 things. Manmana, always think of Krishna. Bhava mad bhakta. Bhava, become mad bhakta, become my devotee. Madhyaji, worship me, and namaskaro, offer your obeisances unto Krishna. And that verse is repeated again in chapter 18. It's at the end, it's the very last verse of chapter 9, and it's the very last verse before Krishna's final instruction, 1866. So similarly, there's a verse, it's almost the same except the last 2 words as the verse we just recited from Canto 1, Chapter 2. Tells us it's important. Now, the verse is spoken by Kapila Dev, and because I'm having fun, and I'm also trying to be a little bit, like give you the bigger picture of the Srimad Bhagavatam while I'm having fun, the person who speaks the verse is Kapila Dev. I want to speak a little bit about Kapila Dev. Who's the firstborn living being? Firstborn living being in the universe. Starts with a B. Lord Brahma. You've heard his name before? Okay, Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma. And Lord Brahma had, after he built the universe, he did many things, before he built the universe. He got self-realization, and he got the Shrishti Shakti, the power to create the universe, and he got the map, the blueprint before he built the universe. He knew what it was supposed to look like. And Lord Vishnu wanted him to do that service, so he did that service. After he built the universe, that was pretty quick, he just built the universe. He then had to fill it up with praja, or offspring, the whole shebang, the whole universe. So one of the persons who was to assist him was Manu. Manu means, it's very similar to the English word man. Manu is the lawgiver of the proper conduct for mankind, called Manu Samhita. So the first of the 14 Manus, in every day in Brahma there's 14 Manus. The first one, directly born from the body of Brahma, was Swayambhuva Manu. And Swayambhuva Manu was to assist Brahma filling up the universe with good praja, good offspring. And so he, in the sequence of many things, one of the things was he had some sons that came directly from his body, no assistance from his good wife, just he produced great rishis. And one of them was Kardama. So Kardama Muni was asked by Swayambhuva Manu, please assist me. So he went off to the river Saraswati. He didn't just roll up his sleeves. He wanted to qualify himself for such an important service. So he went in the first of the 4 yugas, is called Satya Yuga, sometimes called Krita Yuga. In Satya Yuga, the means for achieving perfection is dhyayate, meditation. So he went to do meditation by the side of the Saraswati River. And for a long time, he was engaged in meditation, in complete trance, upon the personality of Godhead, Vishnu. And much to his surprise, much to his surprise, Lord Vishnu came, riding on the back of Garuda. Garuda gently flapping his wings as Lord Vishnu was smiling upon Kardama. And Kardama fell flat and offered his obeisances and stood with folded palms and wanted to offer wonderful prayers. Lord Vishnu spoke first and said, now just summarizing what's in third canto Bhagavatam. So to give you who is Kardama Muni. He said, you please me very much by your although he was doing meditation, it was a devotional mood. He wanted to be in service to Vishnu, that kind of meditation. So I know you please me very much by having your mana, your mind fixed on me, Bhagavad Gita, right? Mana. And I also know that you have a desire to serve in a particular way. The desire that you have is you would like me to appear as your son. You'd like to have an incarnation of the personality of Godhead appear as your son. So be it. I will appear as your son. Wow. And to have your son, you're going to require a good wife, a qualified wife. You want some good news? In 2 days, your good wife is going to come find you here in the forest. His good wife was Devahuti, and Devahuti was the daughter, one of 3 daughters of Swayambhuva Manu. And there were 2 sons. This is Canto 3. So how did Devahuti was the daughter of Swayambhuva Manu. And Swayambhuva Manu had a big palace, and from time to time sages would come to visit. One of those sages that came to visit was Narada Muni. And Narada Muni started describing to Devahuti about Kardama Muni. And she went, woo, 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 I want to marry Kardama Muni. So when it came time for her marriage, her father asked, do you have an idea? He said, yes, I want to marry Kardama Muni. He said, let's go. I mean, there's a little bit more than that. But they're off into the forest to find Kardama Muni. And here comes the Manu. Swayambhuva Manu is one of the 12 greatest authorities in the whole history of the earth planet. Swayambhuva Manu is a very important person. So his daughter was Devahuti, and he, the father, Swayambhuva Manu, asked Kardama, would you accept my daughter in marriage? So he's a Brahmana, she's the princess, so it's a proper marriage, because he can marry like that. And he didn't say no, and he didn't say yes. He said yes on a condition that after there's a son of age to take care of your daughter, then I can return back to the forest from family life, and she can be looked after by her son. So that was fine with the father, it was fine with the girl, Devahuti. And so right there in the forest, they had a marriage. They didn't go back to the palace, they just got married, and she stayed. It's described in the Bhagavatam, she was already very accomplished in Ashtanga Yoga. She was a yogi. She was a very qualified princess, but also very elevated in Ashtanga Yoga isn't just do asanas. It's far more than that. She was very accomplished. So there they are, husband and wife living in the forest. And he's a meditator and a transcendental yogi, and she just assisted him. A princess from luxury to living in the forest with her husband. And they lived like that for thousands of years. I mean, because this is Satya Yuga, their duration of life was longer. And at a certain point, he was so appreciative of her purity and her devotion, etc. And he understood her desire, as was his desire, that she wanted children. There was none of that business until they were qualified, because that's what the commitment was to Manu, or excuse me, to Brahma, that he please assist me in filling up the universe. So now he's qualified and he has a good wife. And so what did Karma Muni do? He's a mystic. He created not just an airplane, but a city, a whole city that flew in the air. Just by his mystic power. And the city had avenues and streets and parks and birds and trees and this and that and palaces, and a group of ladies came and cleaned her up and, dressed her up and made her look nice because she was just living in the forest. So she's now this extravagant princess living in Kardamuni's mystic city that flies around, and he took the mystic city that flew around and took her for a tour of the universe. Really? Yeah, he went to all the inhabitants of the heavenly realm and so forth and so on and so on. So she got a big vacation. And then they returned to his place, his hermitage, and they had some daughters first. Brahma came. Brahma is the father of Kardama. And Brahma saw these 9 daughters and said, these 9 daughters can be given in marriage to others so they can also help fill up the universe with good population. And within the womb of your wife is an incarnation of Vishnu. And soon he will be born and you'll be very happy because they both wanted. That's what happened. Kardamuni and Devahuti became the mother and father of Lord Kapila. And after some time, Kapila grew up. And when Kapila grew up, Kardama wanted to leave, go back to the forest and do his program that he was doing before he was married. And that was the commitment that he had received from her father and her. So some things happened, with some discussion with various persons, and Kardama left. When Kardama left, Devahuti's left in the care of her very qualified son, who was an incarnation of Vishnu. Kapila Dev is an incarnation of Vishnu, and then she, Devahuti, started asking him questions. So it's the same format, questions, answers. And she's asking her son, who she knows to be the personality of Godhead, what's going to happen? Because after some time, you're also going to leave, and my husband's gone, and I'm feeling great separation from my husband, and you're also going to leave. So can you prepare me for that inevitable event in my life? How should I fix my consciousness so that I can always not be in the state of grief, but in the state of Krishna consciousness? So that in the course of his discussions with her, there's a nice verse, which is very similar to the one, almost identical to the one that we just recited together. And it starts the same. Vasudevi Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojataha Janiyati Ashu Vairagyam. But the last line is a little different. Jnanam Yad Brahma Darshanam. Same beginning. So for those of you that want to look this up later, it's 3.32.23. Now I'm speaking on this topic because there's somebody that was listening to last night's class remotely, and they said, can you speak on this verse also? That's what's going on. I hope they're listening. But it'll be recorded if they're not. So same beginning, Vasudeva. It's like the Manmana Bhava Mad Bhakto verse. It'd be so important it's spoken twice. There are some other verses, a few other verses that I'm aware of, like that in the Bhagavatam. They're not identical, but they're very close. Here's one of them. Here's one other one that's almost identical, but very close. While you're looking up 3:32:23, you found it? Okay. When Krishna was born in a prison in Mathura on Janmashtami. And after he was born, he appeared not as a baby, but as a four-armed Vishnu form, or Vasudev, son of Vasudev form. He requested Vasudev, his father, I'll assume a childlike form, because that's what my mother has asked, but could you take me to the other side of the river Jamuna, because Kamsa might do something. So that night, he crossed the river Jamuna, went to Gokul, placed Krishna by the side of Yashoda, and brought back the female child, which was her daughter. Anyway, Krishna resided in Vrindavan, Gokul, and then on the western side of the river Jamuna for almost 11 years. And then close to the 11th year, 10 years, 8 months, Krishna went back to Mathura. And as he was going into Mathura, he's with some friends. And Krishna wanted to have them enter the big city, not in, country bumpkin clothes or cowherd boy clothes. So he approached a washerman who was carrying a bundle of clothing and spoke a particular verse to the washerman, saying, it would be very kind of you if you could supply some garments so that my cowherd boyfriends can be dressed properly to enter into Mathura. It's something to that effect. And the washerman was insulted. So what did he do? He insulted Krishna, insulted the cowherd boys. Krishna didn't like that so much, and so he separated the washerman's head from the rest of his body with just the tips of his fingers. It wasn't a judo chop, he just and then distributed the garments to the cowherd boys and himself and Balaram. Then later, almost the very same words, he spoke to a weaver, almost the same Sanskrit. And the weaver was like, I've just been waiting for this opportunity to serve you, and here's the best of what I have. It may be not so sufficient for you, you're such a great personality. So when something is repeated, it indicates there's some importance to it. And there's some places like that in the Bhagavatam. When you start to read Bhagavatam more, I hope many of you will start to read it more and more and more, as I have done, and it's something starts to happen inside. Let me just share on a personal note. Something that happens on the inside is how you experience life changes. It's the medicine that's taken through the ear. Pravishtakarna randrena swanam bhava saroruham. It's medicine that's taken through the ear, and it cures the disease of the age of Kali. So the age of Kali is still going on around you, but how you experience life changes because the inside changes. Try it. It's good medicine. And the innate happiness that's of the soul that we have forgotten because we've been chasing after happiness out there somewhere, when you experience that happiness on the soul platform or at the heart platform, then the world around you is going on, but your experience of the world around you changes. And you can then become an agent or an instrument to bring about change in the world around you, at least on the heart level of persons who are similarly inclined to make their connection with Krishna again, just like we're doing this evening. So here's the verse. You can repeat after me. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojataha Janayati Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Yad Brahma Darshanam. So the purport Prabhupada is speaking, what's the meaning of Brahma Darshanam? And it means to see Brahman. Darshan is to see, and Brahman means the absolute truth. So his explanation is simple. When you see the Supreme Person, Bhagavan, because that's Vasudeva is Bhagavan. When you see Bhagavan, included, a subset of seeing Bhagavan is Brahma Darshanam, seeing that which is of transcendence, or that which is Sat. The affinity for Asat, or the temporary, is slackened, and when that's slackened, then you can see Sat, or Brahma Darshanam. It's a subset, it's included. When you have $1 million, you have you have $10. Brahma Darshanam. So it's a nice purport. When you have the time, you can read it, because I've spent most of my time just trying to give, the picture of how the Bhagavatam fits into the big picture of the Vedas and Vyasadev's gift to people of this age of Kali, that's us, to give us mitigation from the darkness of this age of Kali. It gives us light. In fact, that's one of the answers to the 6 questions found in the first 3 chapters of Srimad Bhagavatam. I like Srimad Bhagavatam. It's hard for me to stop, but I'm going to stop and see if the devotees here would like to have some discussion on some topic, whatever you'd like. We have a portable microphone. All you have to do is raise your hand, and somehow the microphone's going to come. Go ahead. You got it.
On one of your YouTube presentations, you mentioned that the Bhagavad Gita was the undergraduate study.
Yes.
And you said that the Bhagavatam is the graduate school. Could you elaborate? Why did you say that?
Sure. Keeping it really simple, young students, they learn, just like last night, I asked, what, do you study math in school? Yes. Have you gotten to multiplication and division yet, or are you still at addition and subtraction? You said multiplication, division. Said, what's next? Geometry, and then calculus, and then trigonometry, so the rule of 2 + 2 is 4 continues in higher math. But higher math tells you more about how to take the 2 + 2 is 4. So using that simple example, the graduate, or in school, you do undergraduate studies, and you can make an application, and maybe you'll be accepted at graduate school. Then you take that which you focus on some field, and you take that which you learned in undergraduate school, and you develop it further in graduate school, and then PhD is yet another level, etc. So it's like that. Everything that's in Bhagavad Gita is folded into Srimad Bhagavatam, or say it the other way, is expanded in Srimad Bhagavatam. Just like this manmana. So here's expanded. Here's Kardama Muni. For thousands of years, he's fixing his mind, manmana, fixing his mind on Vishnu. And then what happens? Vishnu came. There's a nice painting on the back. Vishnu's on the back of Garuda, flying in the air. The wings of Garuda are gently flapping. And Kardama is, so that's Manmana. Bhagavad Gita in the graduate study. Srimad Bhagavatam. And others that also engage in taking essences that are, because Bhagavad Gita is the essence. And then you expand it. Then you can go back to the essence. Then you can understand the essence even better. Because here it is with a history, an example. This is what it looks like, or here are some of the ways it looks like. But it's rooted in Bhagavad Gita. Okay.
There's a question in WhatsApp group. So you said the knowledge and the vairagya comes costlessly, but there is a bhakti is there, so how come it's costless? That's the question.
Okay. There's different ways of answering and selecting what might be the easiest way for this audience to understand. Let's take a mango. I'm looking at our young audience. He's having a hard time staying awake. You like mango? Mango's nice? So there may be an unripe mango, and the unripe mango is hard. Now, it's also, it's a delicacy. Some people like, doing things with unripe mangoes, but supposing you like ripe mango. So one of the best ways to get ripe mango is just let it continue to grow on the tree before you pluck it. So the sweetness that's there in a ripe mango, it's you don't have to do something, just let it ripen. It's within, or say another. There's a seed. Within the seed is whatever the seed is the seed of. It can be a tree, it can be a plant, it can be a something, but within the seed is life of a particular variety. And it's so, because it's there in the seed form, it'll manifest in the mature form if the right cultivation goes on. So similarly, within you can say the seed of bhakti lata, bija means seed, within the seed of the bhakti creeper, already within it, the seed, there's knowledge and detachment. Something, you don't have to add something to bhakti so that knowledge and detachment come, therefore it's causeless. There's another verse that comes later in this chapter that says, there's no material cause that can create bhakti, there's no material obstacle that can stop it. Ahaituki pratyataya atma suprasidati. Similar, same word, ahaituki. There's nothing material that can start bhakti, there's nothing material that can stop bhakti. And causelessly, within the seed of bhakti, is knowledge and detachment. Just grow it. It comes out. There's no separate ingredient you have to add to bhakti, and then it comes knowledge and detachment. It's already there. Anything else? Yes. Over here.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I try to formulate my question in my mind, but I'm trying to do my best. So I'm reading chapter 4 on Canto 1, Creation, if I don't mistake the name of it, which explain all creation.
Canto 4, chapter 4 of Canto 1.
Canto 1, chapter 4.
Okay.
I believe that.
Okay.
Yes, I'm beginner.
Okay.
Do you have a model you can put that together? So I have very structured mind, and I like everything dry out into the model. So it's math and physics in my head going
You
on.
want a painting that paints the picture of what that says?
Well, not necessarily picture, could be picture, but would you summarized very nicely many concepts, and it's easy to digest. Do you have that magic model? You would say that's how I would put whole creation started with Krishna, Brahman, Vishnu, which manifests in three-dimensional way, not even three-dimensional. That's what I'm challenge my mind. How would I put
There's
it?
chronology, but there's also, as you're using the word dimension. So I can give a description, a simple summary description of creation, if that's what you're looking for. Is that what you're looking for? Maybe.
At this stage, anything you can share.
Okay. I've got a license now.
Like an essence.
I'll give a summary, but I'll invite you, as you go on reading, however you like to do that, with the group or on your own or a combination or something. It takes a while to grasp it because it's new, but that it's fun because it's new, and it's like you're learning, and that's nice. And you'll find as you're reading, there's no end to learning. I found that. So, there's always more. There's always more. So, let's go back to one of the essential ingredients of creation is time. Time is an energy of Krishna, and time brings things into being, time sustains things for some time, and time withdraws things. And then it's unmanifest. So during the unmanifest part of it, and then again creation. So during the period of non-manifest, creation is withdrawn. And during that time, it's the living, this sum total of all living entities, there's a nice Sanskrit word, samasti, all living entities are within the body of Mahavishnu. And what's he doing? He's enjoying pastimes with his internal potency within Mahavishnu. So here's a hint. When you see paintings of Mahavishnu, you won't see the goddess of fortune, because she's within. He, Mahavishnu, is enjoying eternal pastimes with her within. It's called Yoga Nidra. Nidra means sleep. If he's not sleeping like we sleep. He's a transcendental slumber, and he's enjoying pastimes with Rama Devi within. Doesn't detail what are those pastimes. That's what's going on. So, as far as the spiritual realm, time is eternal. There's no past, present, future. It's nitya, eternal. However, because there's the other kind of time, the past, present, and future kind, there's two events that happen that precipitate creation from that resting place. Unmanifest to manifest, there's two events. One, Mahavishnu considers the living entities that are within him, he wants them to be happy. That's all. Because in that deep sleep state, it's like anesthesia. You're not aware of anything. Time doesn't seem to be nothing. I don't know if you know anybody that's had it, or if you've had anesthesia. When you wake up, there's no sense that time has passed. So it's that kind of time is in abeyance when the living entities are in his. So he wants them to be happy. They're not. He just has that desire that the living entity, all living entities should be happy. Good news, Rama Devi, who's his internal potency, she recognizes that. She wants to facilitate his desire. That's what she does. And as he's having that desire, there's a second desire. And off in the distance, he sees a reflection of her, Rama Devi. The reflection in Sanskrit is Chaya Devi. It means reflection. So that reflection potency is over there, and he understands she wants some service. I'd like to give her some service because she wants some service. He doesn't do anything. Rama Devi recognizes. He wants to give her some service. He wants the living entities to become happy. So what does she do? Rama Devi is the goddess of fortune. As he, Mahavishnu, is glancing, you can see paintings of this. By his glance, Rama Devi entrusts two things: the sum total of all living entities to that glance, and the time energy, but not the eternal. It's the past, present, future kind. It's a subpotency of hers. She entrusts time, energy, and the living entities to the glance. And zoom, off the living entities go into that Shaya Devi. The reflection of the internal potency, that's the external potency. And when the glance of Vishnu, along with living entities and time, it starts to agitate that energy. It's the original impregnation. Mahavishnu's glance and the living entities being invested in the womb of the material energy. And then things start to happen. One of the things that start to happen is the undifferentiated totality of material ingredients start to differentiate out. And the first thing that differentiates out, before there's even anything, is our dear friend, false ego. And then false ego starts to mix with the modes of nature, and you continue forward, you get 24 elements. There's details. So now there's the elements, but that's not over yet. It's just, there's elements. Mahavishnu expands in himself in the form of a transcendental breathing, and from his breath, from his breathing, from the pores of his transcendental body come golden seeds of a universe. And how many? Unlimited. You can't count them all, too many to count. And those golden seeds, there's a Sanskrit term for this, they enter into that material energy, and the elements start to cling, conglomerate, they congeal, they cling to those universes, and the universes start to expand as the elements are clinging to the universe that's expanding. Then, it's not over yet, that Mahavishnu enters into each of the universes as Garbhadaksha Vishnu. He reclines within each of the universes, covering half of the universe, and the other half is space or air. Space, not air, it's just space. And then Lord Brahma appears from the navel of Garbhodaksha Vishnu in each universe. And he appears on the top of a lotus flower, and then many other things happen. There's a sequence, a time sequence. So time brings all of this into being. Brahma builds the universe, Brahma populates the universe, and then it's being sustained by Vishnu as he enters within every atom of creation and the heart of every living entity, etc. And then it's time for cosmic annihilation after a cycle. And it's really simple. He just pulls the plug. He just withdraws the time energy, or Rama Devi withdraws the time energy that she extended, and the whole thing collapses. The manifest starts to enter into the subtle and then the unmanifest state, and then it's the period of cosmic annihilation for equal duration as the creation, and then it's time for creation again. It moves in big cycles of time. Time is a fascinating topic. We never seen it. We see the movements of time, but then you're tick, tick, tick. But no, who has seen time?
Well, how could you comment on time being pretty much artificial concept?
No, it's a Shakti, it's a potency.
So it's okay.
It's Krishna's potency. As he says in Bhagavad Gita, time I am. So his potency is him. And he has potencies, and time is one of them. And time is essential for all things material to happen. Without time, it doesn't happen. Just like you to get up and walk across the room. Take some time. Time permits, and it's an agent, it's a Shakti, a potency of Krishna. It's Krishna's presence through the manifestation of time as we know it. And then there's a time as we don't know it. There's eternal time. Eternal time. So my advice to you is, as I said, just stay with it. Probably, let me guess, you drive a car. Yeah. When you started to drive a car, did you feel comfortable with it? It was awkward, right? Of course. So beginning studying Bhagavatam is a little bit like that. It's like, what? And you do it, and you do it, and you do it, and it becomes second nature. It's nice. It's not like, first you learn addition, subtraction, then multiplication. It's not like that. It's not the ascending. It's the descending. That is to say, you feel closer to Krishna as you keep hearing that sound vibration. And then there's more light, and you can see things you couldn't see before, and like this is a really great adventure, and it just keeps going and going. And there's no end to it. It's one of the nicest things about spiritual understanding. There's no end to it. Because there's no end to it. Yeah, yes, yeah. I was thinking about that as we were riding. The GPS was telling us how to get here. And as we were getting closer, it showed not only that, but you're like, look, there's that little red button that shows that's where the house is. And when we got here, look, everybody was out in the front yard. It's like that. So you just keep going. Know what the destination is. And that's, the destination is not a geographic place like a GPS. The destination is consciousness. And when your consciousness is with Krishna, everything that all happiness is there and all knowledge is there. And detachment from La La Land is also there. Someone has the microphone.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
My question is, as you explained, Kardama Muni and Swami Manu both are brothers, and then the Brahma is the father.
That's right.
So how did Kardama Muni marry Devahuti?
Somebody, you're from South India?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay. I tried on a few occasions to understand from people from South India, when is it auspicious and when is it inauspicious for marriage? Where there's blood relation, but this one is auspicious and that one is inauspicious. I couldn't follow it, but you probably know it. So it was one of those auspicious kind. You follow what I'm saying by the answer I'm giving you?
No, Maharaj.
Okay. There's a couple I know from Chennai. Really nice couple. And one, like this they said we're cousins. Actually. And then he started explaining this rule. This is an auspicious kind, as opposed to inauspicious kind. I don't understand it, so I can't explain it. Ask them. Or somebody that's also from South India that understands it, they can explain it. So there's some that are auspicious, some that are inauspicious. The modern picture is DNA and all that stuff, and this is not DNA and all that stuff. It's just this is auspicious and that's inauspicious, and they just follow the rules.
Thank you, Maharaj.
I'm sorry, I can't do better than that. Something online?
No, Guru Maharaj.
Anything over here? Okay. Okay, we'll end. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
His Holiness Romapada Maharaj ki Jai.